So it was just something great for the kids, and I know my kids invited one of their friends from Bernardsville, but it just gives just mostly it was our kids, but it gave us something to do during the cold months. So I think the big difference, though, it came out of rec fund. So now it's going to, Dan was mentioning it would come out of the municipal fund, the payment of the monitor. There's a monitor, yeah. So.
Does it make sense to have the middle school and high school kids together? I mean, the size difference, the maturity difference. I'd be afraid of the middle school kids getting hurt.
There was no high school kids really that showed up. It's almost like keeping it open for them to just kind of go there if they want to practice. And when they did show up, they kind of practiced playing one-on-one basketball by themselves.
Yeah, they really separate out themselves. And if they want to play, they play. The high school was the 3 to 4 hour, and really no one had. It was hard to come right after school, and those kids go somewhere else and hang out with their friends. It was honestly mostly middle school.
Yeah, because they're all taking the train home, so they're getting home a little bit later.
But there was the occasional high school kid that wanted to come and shoot some hoops.
Yeah, and they just usually just do it by themselves.
Yeah, that's what I've observed personally. And Bob does a wonderful job moderating everybody. Like everyone, I saw kids throwing a ball up to the ceiling. Who knows what's on the ceiling up there? Things kind of snowed down.
Just a little asbestos.
That's acoustic spray up there for that.
Yeah. So anyway, he kept things under control. I think it was a very good thing for the young people in our town. And so that's the update.
Well, I think there were numbers were sufficient enough over the months of March, April, and May to give this another round and see how we do, how to monitor it. I think there's value to it. 2 hours a day seems a little tight to me. Also, I think he said 2 days a week, but 2 to 3 days a week.
Just moving it from, it was 2 days a week. So, and it was on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Sunday,
oh, sorry, my mistake. It was 3 days a week. Okay, now it's going to go to 4 days a week. So 3 weekdays, and then 1 weekend day, the Sunday.
Okay.
But instead of a 3 hour block, it'd be a 2 hour block.
And that's how we gain the extra
day. And we still have Bob on board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. The one thing that Dan is incorrect about does not come out of the Recreation Trust Fund. It comes out of our own municipal operating budget.
I guess last year it came out of the Recreation.
We didn't have a monitor last year.
No, in the spring it came out of the Recreation Trust Fund.
That's incorrect. It's budgeted as a municipal employee.
Perhaps, yeah.
Oh, that's it. Then maybe Dan is mistaken because Dale was supposed to take it out of the recreation.
No.
That was the sample.
Yeah, I think he thought it was
we pay Dan's salary out of the
Right, but we had discussed to do it out of recreation to see how it went. But that's fine because then we just keep it right out of that salary.
You all recall we did budget for him for the monitor, so that is covered by the municipal budget. Okay. Well, we'll give it that.
And it's an easy transition. It's already covered by it.
Yep. So consent to continue, I'm sorry.
Just a question about that. So because it's an employee, it's out of the municipal operating budget or employee cost rather than the rec trust fund. If it were a piece of equipment, would it come out of rec trust?
It could, certainly, yes.
It could, certainly.
It just seems like a good way to give back of, having it come out of that fund since someone who registers to play basketball is paying into the rec trust fund, right, to play. So using that money to pay for someone to do the open gym just seems like a good turnaround with the same funds.
But they don't pay a fee to use open gym. They don't pay a fee to use open gym.
No, right. But
I think what Amy's saying is there's a fair amount of money in the Recreation Trust Fund, and it would be a legitimate way to pay it down because it would be used for recreation. Certainly the things that it's used for don't bear any correlation to softball or t-ball or any of the other sports which may have turned over a profit in some years.
I'm fine with that.
I just think it's a good way to turn around the money that's brought in to use for further recreation.
Not necessarily all of the activities that we do make a profit.
No, I understood.
So by doing that, taking that out of there all the time is lowering that account towards the things that we do for nothing that don't cost any of the residents any money, like the Halloween, like Santa Claus, Community Day. So now we're taking away from those funds that we use for those, that come out of recreation.
Are we at risk of not having enough funds to fund
No,
eventually?
No, I mean, it's gone down,
No.
it's gone down, but it's not bad. Does anyone know what it is?
If the rec fund
120.
subsidizes the repair of the tennis courts,
Yeah,
that would certainly put a big hit on the,
right.
because that would be expensive. And I think Dan has been trying to, use that fund for, refinishing the gym, for recreation-related capital expenditures. And as I think about it, when I stepped off of rec, I know Dan had a couple of things earmarked that he was planning on spending that money
Yeah,
for.
yeah.
So before making that switcheroo, I think we would need to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I don't think during his tenure thus far, the account is like growing and growing and growing. I think it's going down and down a little bit. I mean, I agree with Amy, it seems like a very reasonable thing to use the fund for, but I also don't want to drain the fund and risk it, like losing some of these other projects that we do in town that are so appreciated. Has anyone done the math on like how many, so this is 2 hours a day,
He makes
Or-
$15 an hour.
so it's 8 hours a week. You know, how many weeks are we talking
We
about?
budgeted $7,800 for this year.
Okay, so it's what we're talking about, 20 weeks?
Oh, I think we
So-
should hear that dollar amount.
Right, because if it's 20 weeks, right, about, it's not even half a, you know. And what did I say, 4 times a week, so it's 8 hours a week,
It's 68.
and then you said
$60 a week.
$15?
Yeah.
So it's $2,400, so,
I mean,
Actually,
that
it's
number's
3
not,
hours still.
it's not gonna break either bank.
no, for sure not.
I think it's 2 hours on the weekdays, and I think it's still 3 hours. I mean,
Okay, so,
3 hours on Sundays, is what I
Right.
understood.
so under $3,000.
Yeah.
I'm fine either way, however anyone wants to pay for it.
Okay. Any further comments on it?
I'm in agreement to keep it open, and I think we can afford it.
Yeah.
Okay, consent from the council, please.
He said,
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
thank you.
There were no other items on the old business.
Can I bring something up, Mayor?
Have something, please?
So just going back to the road discussion from several months ago around the speeding on Main Street and on Mendham Road leading into Jackson. So just to have everything on the record, I've spoken with both Val and Karen around what we've done. We brought the police out with the county out. We've assessed everything. Everything is compliant. The only thing we could really do at this point is put up an additional signage. The thought from the county, however, is if people aren't respecting the speed limit now, which again, the overwhelming majority are, there's just some that are not, an extra signage isn't gonna do anything. One idea that Val actually brought, which I think is an interesting one I wanna present to the council, is painting on the road as you enter the speed limit 25 miles per hour. There's actually an example of this on Old Army Road by the high school in Burnsville, where as you approach that area, 25 and then MPH, and as you're coming, so that's an idea maybe that we could do by Holland and maybe even by Val's house, and so that way, hey, you know that it's still there. Same thing coming in from Mendham on that downhill there at 25 miles an hour, so people are just, again, more aware of it. Not saying it'll improve anything. The county would not cover that. That would be something that would fall to the borough to pay for, but they are completely open to allowing us to do that and maintain it should we want to. So I wanted to bring that to the council's attention and see if that's any action we may want to take and explore having the road painted 25 miles an hour.
we've never tried it. So, it's worth giving it a shot. It can't cost more than, any more than putting in a crosswalk, and you don't have curb cuts.
Yeah. So if you guys were amenable to it, I was going to talk with Brad and figure out who we use for striping for the roads, and then get a quote for having 2 of those, put one on Main Street and one in Jackson. Sorry.
The county will do it and they bill us.
Oh, they will.
The county has.
Okay, I'll confirm that with Pat from the county. That wasn't how he vocalized it to me, but
They did some striping for us in the past and we paid for it.
Okay.
When I was doing this.
so I'll reach out to Pat then if the council is in agreement to explore what that option would be.
And are there any downsides to it?
The only downside I could think of is more residents may want that on their roads, which You know.
Feasibly the aesthetics of it, to have a painted road, you know, I know. Some people are funny about, like, they want it to be a farm-looking road, right, they don't want,
yeah.
like, people got annoyed in our street just because on Willow, with those, when we added those lines, because I thought it made it look like a busier road than you know, I mean, it's,
Or a double yellow line down the middle of the road on Jackson.
yeah, right, exactly, like, people get fired up over this stuff.
I do question.
But on that road, I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, just being devil's advocate.
Personally, from everything I've done with the county and the police, I don't know if it would have a great impact. Personally, when I drive the Old Army Road, I see it on paper. You know, I'll be honest. So do I think it would have an impact?
Yeah, delete.
It's in a separate town. So, you know, I figured it's just.
He's not your attorney for this.
Doesn't cover private.
I've found that favors in navigation. I've been on roads where they paint the number of the road on the road, so it's easier. I'm looking down when I'm navigating rather than at signs. So I can see the benefit, but the aesthetic part of, I think, can we mock it up or just have a look at what that
Absolutely.
looks like?
I'll take it to the next step. I'll talk with the county. I'll see what the process is, whether we do it or whether they support it. And then if that's the case, I can see some examples of what it may look like and bring it back at the next meeting.
Right.
I was in a town somewhere in New Jersey last week, I can't remember, I was on my way to some court, and they had the white strips, just, they're a little elevated, not so that it doesn't, but they're almost like a rumble strip when you're getting close to the old toll plaza.
They have that on Remington Road.
And they got me to slow down.
Yeah, they're loud.
Are they loud?
They're loud for
I
the
know,
residents.
I know,
But they
that's the
are
argument
rumble
against
strips.
the,
Right, no, I know the ones, but when you drive those ones at Lamington, it still makes
Yeah.
no, yeah.
I didn't hear any noise.
They have them all
Let
over,
me
they
see.
have them throughout Randolph.
Yeah.
Like
And what do
that,
you think?
all the
Do they
time.
make noise?
They make noise.
They make noise.
They do.
They do make a little bit of noise, not as much as if you're going over a
When you say
rumble
that,
slip or you're
Yeah.
going over the.
when you say they make noise, somebody who lives on Main Street, sitting in their living room, will hear every car going by if they have to.
That I don't know,
I
but
don't
when
know.
I go over those in Lamington Road, I hear,
You-
it's not
You're
the
in the
rumble.
car, you
I
hear it.
Yeah,
And, you know, and the fillings
I
in the
would
teeth
not
rattle a
be
little
keen for
bit.
those in our town. I would not be.
Yeah, I don't think the residents would appreciate it personally generated.
yeah, I mean,
No,
we,
we're not gonna know whether they can hear it until we put it in,
We
so.
could just sit in line.
Yeah,
and
sit in line,
that's right.
that's right.
sit at the church.
I drive that road every day to work, so I could actually.
Let's get some lawn chairs and sit on Remington Road. Listen,
Okay.
Well, Eric, I would say, I do like the thank you on the sign on Willow.
Yeah.
I think that is actually.
And I will say, living on Willow, I think that sign makes a difference. I know they're expensive, and we don't want to have those signs all over our town because they're tacky looking. But man, I think it works.
we're gonna have to replace it
So
eventually,
on Willow,
too.
do you ever drive up Willow?
I do.
There is an
The
electronic sign, right?
Okay.
And so if you're going 25, it's thank you, and it's, you know, it tells you your speed. And if you go 30 or above, it's 25. It has blue and red flashing light. So really, like, you're like, you know, you have that. This is a police thing,
Like the glow of the town.
right?
Yeah.
Right. And I think it works.
I like the thank you.
The thank
It
you.
really, like,
I
I'm
like
like, I
the
want the
thank
thank you.
It's almost like gamification.
Right.
You're
You're
I
like,
feel bad
and
to say I
like,
haven't
you're
seen a
welcome.
thank you, so.
Yeah, you have not. I always do that.
So, but if I'm going between 25 and 30, I see nothing, right? So that's.
Right, you don't see the flashing lights, but you
Yeah.
don't smell it.
Eric, you do need your attorney here today.
You're digging this hole.
Do we have?
I'll be honest, I came up Willow and I didn't see the thank you.
Do we know how much that one costs? 'Cause I know those can be.
I
They
think-
can be kind of expensive.
I want to say like,
I wanna say they're around $2,500.
that's exactly the number I was gonna say.
Is that a fixed position item or?
Yes, that's fixed.
And how is
And
that-
like I said, I mean, when I first went up, I'm like, I don't know how you feel, but it's not that attractive. Like, I wouldn't want it right in front of my
How
house.
is it powered? Is it solar or is it?
Solar, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I can look at both of those.
Yeah.
No, for what, Main Street?
For heading from Mendham into
I can see it being a
Okay.
good location there.
That's a county, you need a county approval for that.
Right, so I'm going to the county to talk about the striping, what that would be. I can bring that up to him
Right.
as well. But I do know last time when we had Pat out here, he said we could put up, in that regard, we could put up whatever we want. They're supportive, they don't care. When it comes to us to install it, maintain it, so.
Great, thank you for doing all that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll report back.
Thank you, Eric.
Any other old business from the council members? See none, on to new business. Nothing was put on the agenda for it, but does anybody have any new items?
I have an item for roads. I'll actually need your help, John. So-
I think so.
Don has made me aware that Overlook Ave, for those that aren't familiar, it's the cut street between Main Street and Mendham. We're getting a lot of large vehicles, a lot of dump trucks and bigger trucks going through there. So the thought, they've even damaged some property with fencing, making wide turns and whatnot. So the thought was to put in an ordinance to reduce, the weight limit for the road. My thought is also maybe adding an axle limit. If you have, no more than 2 axles and X amount of weight to go through that road. So I wanted to bring it to council's attention to see what the feedback was. If you guys were all in agreement that that's a good idea, then John, I would love to have the draft ordinance, to what that would look like.
I think it's a great idea.
Talked to Bill Rodden, years ago, we looked into doing, a weight ordinance. And my recollection was that if we're gonna have a weight ordinance, we need to have a scale so that we can enforce it.
Well, you can word it so that it's registered GVW. So anything over 4 tons registered GVW or over 8 tons is what I've seen in a couple of different municipalities, and then there's no scale necessary.
Okay.
Yeah, if we had a 4-ton and more than 2 axles, I think that would, look, even with trailers, landscape trailers going through, it's been an issue. So if you limit it to at least make them kind of go around rather than cutting through, I think an axle limit would be applicable.
Well, I think you also have to think about where they're going around now. I mean, they're still going to get to where they're going, so they're going to take a different
So the
street.
GPS is sending them that.
Yeah, they're
to get-
cutting
to get to
through,
Thomasville Road.
The
Yeah.
shortest from.
So, I mean, they could make a left there and go down Main Street up Old Chester, up Jackson to Mendham, or they could go around Main Street and make a left onto Mendham. But cutting right there, the way it goes uphill, it's a narrow road.
It's a blind spot, and there's a lot of kids that live on that road.
Yeah.
So at the risk of sounding like a broken record for those who were here early in the meeting, what proof do we have that this is occurring other than we see a truck here or there on the road?
Resident complaints, and I don't know the address, but right on the corner, I have seen their fence taken out. Two down.
To down. One resident.
I don't know if it was one, he made it seem as though it was multiple.
There's only 2
But
residents on that
whether
road.
there's, multiple.
It couldn't be that many,
There's 4
If
residents.
there's a
on that
lot
road.
of large traffic going through there, I think we should minimize it.
If there is in fact large traffic and it's a problem, what that large traffic is gonna go somewhere else. So is it then gonna go up Dewey?
No, I mean, I think it's cut through because, people come down Pottersville and then they just like zag up that street.
If the GPS,
And
if the
GPS.
GPS is doing it, and what will happen though is they'll pass Overlook and the GPS will say, turn left on Dewey. So, and reroute them, so we may just be, it might just be moving it down the road.
Oh,
It's
wait, so
possible,
these are
although-
cars coming up Mendham and
What?
going to
I think it's both
Pottersville.
direct, I think it's both direct.
Both of them,
I'm
so-
coming on
Because I think that,
And truthfully, I would think Dewey is a more suitable road.
yeah,
for
it's a
that
wider.
than the fire trucks go up and down that road, right?
Yeah.
So, that's definitely a wider road, and you don't have that big incline as you do on Overlook. So
Yeah.
whether there's, resident complaints or not, I would still think it makes sense for those that live on that road to.
Right, and that resident on Main, or I guess it's Mendham, and like, I've seen their fence torn down, that sign has been torn down. People that have cut that corner.
Okay,
So you gotta be careful when you drive.
so,
Great.
And
All
also
right.
enforcement, like, will it be enforceable, right? So we would need to make sure the police would monitor it, right?
Well, upon an ordinance being approved, we would also probably need to put a sign there just saying, hey,
No, you
weight
have to.
limit or axle limit or combination would have to be posted.
More signs.
let's just not go down the wrong slope. We've had other residents come in here and speak, these residents have not. Well, too many trucks on our road, we don't like the trucks. Let's not get into a bad situation where we're putting signs up because one person or 2 people have complained about something. Because then we're gonna have weight limit signs on 20 roads.
I can think of one road in
Yes,
particular.
there is.
Yeah.
You know it better than I do.
Yeah, I do know it well. And that's what I'm concerned
Yeah,
about.
I mean-
So let's keep that in mind as well.
With keeping that in mind, do we have consent to have John draft an ordinance, or do you want to forego entirely? It's one or the other.
Here, my suggestion would be, why don't you talk to Ryan and see what he says?
Okay.
And he may have an alternative thought, I don't know, Ryan's creative like that.
Okay.
And,
I'll reach out to him.
yeah.
And even that conversation with Chief Galante to see how many incident reports there have been. If the private property is being damaged, people should be calling it in.
Okay.
So we make it some evidence as to how much, the frequency.
So I will take an action to speak with the chief and with Bill.
Ever since I've been on the council, we've drilled into joined the council, not to take complaints from residents, but to report them directly to the council in public session. And so we need to be cautious of that as well. I know John got a complaint from someone, but let's just be cognizant of that. We're supposed to get those requests for but look into it, see what we come up with.
Will do.
Any other items for new business? Seeing none, let's move on to miscellaneous discussions. Quilt framing discussion. Jamie, I'll let you start on that one.
All right, so, gosh, I don't even know, I'm sorry, I didn't look at the date. Last year sometime, my elderly neighbor presented to me to share with the council a quilt which was created by her great-grandmother, who was the wife of the first mayor in town back in the late 1800s. And it was presented in Philadelphia at the first centennial celebration, so 100-year-old celebration of the United States of America. And so it has some historic value, right? It was made by the wife of the first mayor, donated from a family who's lived in town for multiple generations. It's a lovely quilt. And so when it was donated to us, we did say that it's a beautiful quilt. Let's give it to our historical commission and let's attempt to display it, frame it in some fashion, and very likely here in the council room. The person who donated it to us requested that it be in this building. And so since then, there have been multiple discussions on how we should display it. It's very large. I don't have the dimensions in front of me, but it's quite large. And it's an intricate pattern. I'm happy to open up for those here in person. And so folding it, there may be some options, but, thank you. It's about, is that 96 by 70.5?
Yeah.
Okay, dimensions. So fairly large. So we've had discussions on should we frame the entire thing, and we did hold it up on that back wall. If we do it if we move the Constitution and put that somewhere else, it would be able to fit below that clock and come all the way down to that table's edge. It would really take that entire wall. We could move that clock to somewhere else, maybe to the right of that door, and shift it up a little bit so it wouldn't hang quite so low, but it really would take the majority of that back wall. That's really the only location on which it could be done if we did it full size. The cost, we got multiple cost estimates for both folding it and for full coverage. And Amy, you don't happen to have those out, do you?
I do. So for the full frame, it's quoted between 1,900 approximately and 2,800.
Okay. And that would be a wooden frame with like a plexiglass covering.
To protect the fabric.
To protect the fabric. Exactly. Like we don't want it exposed completely. And then the folded it was like maybe half those costs.
It was like 500 to 1,900.
Yeah. To do a folded frame. And so basically the decision has to be made, are we going to frame it? In what way are we going to frame it? And where are those funds going to come from? So we've had multiple discussions on this and people have varying opinions. For me, I'm happy to honestly look at this and see if there's a way that we could fold it and still appreciate the entire quilt. But if we're going to lose some of the quality of the quilt and not be able to see kind of each pattern, then I think we should do the full quilt. That's my personal opinion. And
I think, the size of it's kind of resonating with me now. It wasn't resonating quite the same way when we were online. I'm looking at it and saying it's going to be 8 feet long by 6 feet approximately, which would be almost that whole.
We have a picture of it. I thought I forwarded it to you all.
You did, but during the meeting,
Yeah.
I'm not that. I can't move that fast on the computer.
Yeah.
You got a picture like a sheet of plywood.
I didn't send it to you, the picture?
I saw it, but a piece of plywood's 4 by 8. That's 4 by 6.
Yeah.
So 6 by 8.
Yeah.
I think it might look better actually if we fold it in half because it's not going to be like sitting up there like wallpaper.
Mhm.
And my thought would be, we rotate it every year to flip it around so that the same side's not exposed to the light.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't want it to, to age. I mean, natural light, I don't think the light in here would damage it too much. Usually that's more of a natural light phenomenon, but, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I don't want it to age inappropriately, but do you want to open it up and see? And just, because we just need to decide tonight.
John and I can hold it
Yeah,
up.
Mark and I,
Yeah, I
Mark
mean,
and
I
I
just
will.
want to comment that the full quilt was presented to us as the full quilt, and it really is a striking display of all the designs across the full quilt. So, it's intended to be displayed fully, and
So you can fold it really
like
good
see
way.
it happen.
I think the only way that we would be able to fold it in half is, like this, fold it.
Need a microphone.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This,
Exactly.
like this. Here, you can open it up. I'm gonna take so much.
We fold the sheets with my wife.
Yeah.
Right,
Let's hold it up to the council.
right, so then you still
You
get,
want to hold it against the back wall, just so you get a better perspective?
can we? Sure.
Yeah, why not?
So, so this, you would still get every part of the pattern.
But the other side has the pattern.
Well, so the way that it works is that, the flag part is faced one way and the emblem is faced a different way. So we would just choose.
Just to show the fold up.
Yeah. I mean, I really think the emblems in the middle
Yeah.
are what
And then
you want
the
to
flags
be
are-
positioned around.
Yeah. So we could obviously do that. And I mean, it's big, but I think it can fit.
It fits, and it's impressive, and it's, it's, the quality of it is its entirety, right? It's not.
I would be proponent to frame the entire thing, just especially because I think the
Do you
flag.
want me to,
You can be vertical.
It looks incomplete when it's folded. It's like
Yeah.
there's something else
You
that's
want me to
out of
hold it up?
balance with it when it's folded, but when it's
I
open,
got it.
it has
Yeah.
symmetry.
right, this one.
Yes, dear.
I'm a art background, I like the full quilt.
Okay.
I'll be honest when I see it on the wall.
Yeah.
I've seen folded quilts too. I worked a little bit at the New Jersey Sharing Foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're a donor, they have quilts, and we get a picture, or, that's how they honor, the donors and their families. And they have quilts all throughout the organization that have like a bar, and they're hung, but they're not protected.
Right.
I don't know, this is more historic, those are newer quilts.
Yeah.
They use them as backgrounds and things, so I've seen it that, like, you have like almost like a clothes hanging rack.
I don't know, seeing it in person.
I think I like it full.
Seeing it in person, I think full.
Not that I'm not a big fan of spending a lot of money.
Am I allowed to talk? I'm just doing this.
It's not.
Not enough. No, that was quick.
At the end, we can open
Yeah.
agenda.
I don't know, seeing it up there, even it looked to me better than in the picture that was sent to us. Like, it doesn't look too big for that wall. And so it's a matter of where do we find the $2,800 to frame it?
And with the framing option right now, I would expect it would be larger than the quilt, right? I mean, how much edging are we talking about leaving on it?
Well, I don't think it wasn't, it's not like matted. So I think that the space between the frame and the quilt was pretty minimum. But then, of course, between that space and then the actual wooden frame, I mean, it would add several inches on either side. So
Probably
it would
4
be,
inches all around or so?
yeah, something like that.
I think it was like a 2.5 to 3 inch, frame.
So I have a large flag frame in my office at home, and there's like this much of the matting around it, like half an inch if that.
No, this had no matting around it, it was just the frame, and I think the frame itself was 2.5 to 3 inches.
Okay.
So right, I don't know, 6 inches in every direction.
I think for what it is and to depict it properly, it shouldn't be folded. I feel like it should compromise what it is. And if we're gonna do it right, and then display the whole thing. That would be my personal opinion.
I agree.
I agree.
Well, I can cancel, I'll waive my objection.
Okay. Okay, so full frame, yes.
Right.
And my objection wasn't based on the cost.
So.
What, do you want to verbalize your?
No, it was just, I just thought in terms, it's gonna consume the whole wall. I thought it would look better if it didn't consume that whole back wall, but
I think it'll be nice to have some
I do
color.
agree
Color.
with you.
Or
Yeah.
we could put it on that wall and move the pictures somewhere
Oh, that's not
in
a
the
bad
back.
idea.
That wall might be better suited for the
Yeah.
quilt.
Mhm.
And, then we can have all the pictures. I mean, that would again cost money, 'cause well,
you know what, if you go on that.
I mean, I'll personally
Actually-
volunteer my time to move.
Actually,
Yeah.
you know what?
I'll come and hang.
That's,
No, Jill, that-
Kevin will do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
not.
wherever we have to go with it,
we can
Kevin
actually
will
take
do.
those pictures and just go single file around the room with them.
That would
instead.
work too. That's a
And that
great
way, and
idea.
that frees up that wall.
Yeah.
And the governing document over there instead.
Or they can go across the top.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's what, yeah.
Just go, start over there.
The only thing is that
Go
are they
across
too
the top.
high up to see
By the
them?
time you get
Yeah,
to the
well-
wall, it'll be a half-half
Everyone, I think we're starting to get off track.
Okay, but there's space in this room, whether we end up changing that wall or this wall, there's room in this room for, the full quilt. So let's figure out where we're gonna get that money.
Okay, you have 1,500 in historic budget, so that gets you a start.
And what does what does the historic budget typically go to?
Whatever project they want to do.
So we've had this discussion and 1,500 is our entire budget, so that would leave nothing for other projects.
And what other projects are on the docket this year?
Well, we have a lot of items that we're preserving, so we're framing some photos.
Mhm.
We've talked about buying another cabinet to use within the building because some of the cabinets that we wanted to use in the scout cabin may not fit here. So we do have work to do within historic to spend that money.
And you anticipate this is all gonna be encumbered before year end?
Yeah.
Because we're getting to that part of the year now where
Right.
it's getting close.
I was gonna say, well, what if we replenish the historical budget next year as well, those aren't gonna be
Well, that,
performed this
If
year.
they're-
Right.
As opposed to, they're doing a rush encumbering to get the money, have the money earmarked.
I'm seeing nothing encumbered.
we have
for
not
historic.
encumbered for this year, so it is a good point. I think if we could leave some money for us to do some framing and so forth this year and use some for the framing of the quilt, but not take from our budget next year, because I think that's draining for us. We need to be led to the year with money.
I think that's fair. I mean, if it takes from the budget this year, the majority of the budget this year, but not from any next year, and the rest comes from town funds, because that would be not quite a split, because I don't know, and I'd love historic to be pretty critical about it. I mean, if there's really a couple things that you were imminently framing before
Yeah.
encumbering time, then maybe withhold a couple $100 for that.
Right.
But if it's kind of like just rushing to do it, maybe say this year we're gonna spend that budget on splitting the cost of the framing with the town.
Right.
But if you feel like you need to withhold some, I don't necessarily feel comfortable stripping a commission of their entire budget for a single project. But I would, if it's,
Nancy, if you could, can you take a look at where we are, or with our various line items? Because we're approaching, the end of October where we can move things into the historical preservation line item to pay for the framing.
Yep.
So,
I can do
so
it.
we could have money out there.
We have it. We have it if we want to do it. The question is, should it be a fundraising effort, or are we taking the money from elsewhere?
So the position from historic, where I guess I won't speak for them exactly, but as a member, and as a council member, I'm in favor of using part of our funds from this year, but not becoming a fundraising arm for the town. I think that's not where we need to spend our efforts right now. We're supportive of the quilt. We want it to be fully displayed and give some money toward it from this year, because we don't have all of that allocated, but the rest of it we would like the town to pay for it, because it was part of that discussion. I have notes from November of 2022 when it was brought in. The current mayor, or the mayor council at that time, said, we support this, we want it to happen, let's make it happen, we'll find the money.
Yeah.
So, we're finding some money from historic, and it's a good amount of money from our budget because we have it to use, but the rest of it is not.
I agree. I don't think that the historic committee should be burdened with the entire cost.
I don't agree. When I was historic preservation chairman, I raised every cent of the $6,800 for the clock fundraising.
Well, I think that's
Our committee raised every cent of that.
Yeah.
We didn't even touch our budget.
You chose to pursue that project. I just think that's a difference. If this is being imposed on us to say, go knock on doors and raise funds for this frame,
And I do think it's a little bit different of scenario, because it's, that's like the town clock, it's a little, it's so.
If anything, the town should pay for it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But just easier fundraising, is all I'm saying.
I would agree, that's an easier one for the general population. A lot of people might not think, especially with a not so great economy.
Why don't you do this? Here, let me give this suggestion. You gotta put a cap on the number. You just can't say whatever the difference is, the town's gonna absorb. So why don't you come up with a number, and let's, just pulling this number out of the air, let's say it's $2,500, okay? And Nancy and I will see where we can transfer 1,000 in historic to cover it.
Well, so what was the framing cost for the full?
1977 is the lowest, and then 2868. So 2,500. I'm sure Susie has found something. That's the range.
So,
I think they were only the two.
For $500, I wouldn't ask you to go raise money, we'll come up with that.
For the 1977.
Yes.
Right, I don't really remember the difference in the actual.
Yeah, I don't know the difference of the.
Was the 1900s for the full?
Yeah.
Well,
For the full quit. I think it was the size of the frame.
I'm sure it is.
yeah.
And this is glass on top or plexiglass?
Plexiglass for both, because otherwise it'd be extremely heavy.
And they said the glass just wouldn't hold that big of a.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I think
I
that
cannot
makes more
picture
sense
glass
too.
that big.
So can we cap it at call it 2,100? I just want to make sure that frame width is
Okay.
Yeah, that's
thick
fine.
enough. It needs to be substantial enough for a big piece like that.
And we'll come up with Nancy and I'll figure out what the transfer is. So 600, up to 600.
Over the years, I always fun like this.
Yeah.
Find extra money.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, is everyone okay with that?
proceed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it's gonna go over there, right?
We'll frame it and then we can figure
TBD.
out.
I mean, you can put the mayors around the Constitution as well. I mean, there's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
can
would
also,
try up
we
to
can
wait.
also move the mayors.
You think you're moving the mayors or the councils?
We can move the
I think the
councils,
mayor-
move the mayors over to where the councils are and move the councils
I'm
somewhere
not
else.
in favor of moving the mayors. It's been there ever since I've been here, that's the mayor's wall. Why don't you put it back where the council members are?
I don't think that's big enough.
That's not a big enough spot now.
Yeah.
I think if you actually have it, why don't we have it framed?
Exactly, I think
And then
we'll,
move it around and,
figure it out.
I agree.
All right. Minutes, let's move on. Consent agenda for, is everyone, all the council members
Some of them
feel?
must have it.
I was not present for the regular meeting minutes.
I can do them separately.
Or the
Motion
executive
second
session.
for regular meeting of August 15th,
So moved.
2023. Jamie at first, John the second. Roll call, please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Oh, I'm sorry. The dates of those minutes.
August 15th.
Yes.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Cortello.
Abstain.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel.
Abstain.
Okay, very good. Executive session, should I ask you all if you had any corrections or executive session minutes of September 12th, 2023, a motion and second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jamie and Jill, any comments, corrections?
No.
Roll call, please.
No.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yeah.
I've seen.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Cortello.
Abstain.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Now we have some heavy ordinance readings, so if I don't get this right, stop me. Let's start with 1126-2023, an ordinance by the mayor and council. Nancy, I'm just going to read these.
Okay.
An ordinance by the mayor and council amending the Borough of Peapack and Gladstone's Code of Ordinances to repeal Chapter 2 Administration, Section 31.14 Promotions and Appointments to Superior Officer Positions, and to adopt a new Section 31.14 Appointments and Promotions. A motion and second to open the public hearing for ordinance 1126-2023.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Eric and Jamie, roll call please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Cortello.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel.
Aye.
Okay, let's start with those in the room. Would anybody in the room from the public like to comment on this ordinance? Seeing none, anybody online like to comment on this ordinance?
don't see, nothing is in the chat.
Okay, a motion second to close the public hearing for 11/26/2023.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, John and Jill, roll call please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
Nancy, am I going too fast for you?
No.
Okay. A motion and second to now adopt ordinance 11/26/2023.
So moved.
Second.
John and Jamie, roll call please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
Okay, ordinance 11/26/2023 is adopted and shall be published by title only in the Burnsville News in accordance with the law. Moving on to 11/27/2020. This is an ordinance appropriating certain monies held by the borough of Peapack And Gladstone for the acquisition of an alcohol test system for the borough's police department at a cost of $19,305. A motion is second to open the public hearing for ordinance 11/27/2023.
Second.
Eric and John, a roll call please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
Okay, let's start with those in the room. Would any of our guests in the room, our residents in the room, wish to comment on ordinance 11/27/2023? Seeing none, would any of those online wish to comment on this ordinance?
I can't say, nobody's raising their hand or is in the chat.
Okay, very good. Motion and second to close the public hearing for 11/27/2023.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
Okay, and now a motion and second to adopt ordinance 11/27/2023.
So moved.
Second.
Jamie and Amy. Sorry, Joe.
Amy, Joe.
Jamie and Amy kind of
Roll call
roll.
please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
Okay. Ordinance 11/27/2023 is adopted and shall be published by title only in the Burnsville News in accordance with the law. Okay, now we're on to ordinance 11/28/2023, and this is the first reading. Citizens of Art. An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 4, Article 7, titled Wildlife Feeding of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Peapack And Gladstone. May I have a motion second to introduce ordinance 11/28/2023?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Jamie and Eric, roll call vote, please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich?
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy?
Yes.
Councilman Portello?
Aye.
Council President Sweeney?
Aye.
Councilwoman Weibel?
Aye.
And can I just make the comment, there is a change in the date that the public hearing will be for this. It will be October 24th instead of October 10th when you read it.
Okay, got it. Ordinance 11/28/2023 is introduced and shall be published in summary in the Burnsville News, and the public hearing for said ordinance shall be held on October 24th, 2023 at 7:00 p.m. or shortly thereafter. Okay, very good. Let's move on to resolutions. May I ask the council members to look at resolutions 172-2023 through 186-23 and advise me if there's any resolution that you would like to pull, so we can do a consent agenda on all the others.
I don't need to pull anything.
Okay?
Yeah, I don't need to come on
No.
either.
Okay, take your time.
181 needs a language change.
We did make that change.
Okay.
You sent that, or Susie sent that earlier, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she sent that back out
Eleven
earlier.
o'clock.
That's what that
Right.
changed.
I don't have a problem with consent.
John's good?
I'm good.
Okay, Amy's good? Okay, Eric's good. Okay, very good. May I have a motion and a second for a consent agenda vote on resolutions 172-23 through 186-23?
So moved.
Second.
Nancy, a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Portello.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to bill list. Approval of bills. Does any council member have any item that needs to be pulled for discussion from consolidated bill list? And I say consolidated because it's essentially two meetings
Okay, wonderful.
worth. It's a big number,
Yeah.
mostly to the school. None? Okay. Nancy, would you read the total amount, please?
Yes, $1,831,206.92.
Okay, may I please have a motion and a second to approve resolution 187-23 for the payment of bills?
So moved.
Second.
Eric and Amy, a roll call vote, please, Nancy.
Councilwoman Dietrich.
Yes.
Councilwoman Murphy.
Yes.
Councilman Portello.
Aye.
Council President Sweeney.
Aye.
Councilwoman Weigel.
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to council reports. If no one objects, rather than me reading through the list, you all know what committees you're chairs of. Does anybody have a committee report to present this evening? Any of the council members?
I have just one item with fire,
Okay, go ahead.
and this is a happy thing. I would have been asked at the last meeting if we followed through on it, but the fire company took first place at the boating parade about a month ago for best in category and best overall.
Very nice.
They were-
What was the category?
Remember?
Whatever number, engine number 2 fits
Okay.
under.
I didn't know which one of it, engine number two.
It was engine number 2. They worked hard for about 10 days prior to doing all the prep work with Ron Hill growling at them as to what to do. So they get bonus points for that.
Just one thing to update on the finance side, I think we're all aware, but Dale's last day was last Wednesday, and hopefully will be our new tax collector and CFO as we go through resolutions as well.
Any other committee reports?
And I'll just add on to Eric that Nancy is retiring, that is in the finance department now, is retiring at the end of October, and they have hired somebody new that will be starting October 4th to work with her for the last month of October.
Great.
How long has she been with them?
She's been with them almost the whole full 3 years that they've been here, almost, 3.5 years that they've been with us.
Well, there's one less Nancy.
I know.
One less Nancy.
Oh, no, we can work on getting
Yeah, we'll
another
hire
Nancy, can't we?
The new person that's coming in, her name is Tina, so.
We can call her Nancy.
Yes,
Maybe,
you can call her Nancy.
maybe we'll start on Tina's.
That's it.
Okay, thank you for mentioning that, Eric. We will miss Dale very much.
Yes.
Any other council reports?
No.
How about a legal report from our attorney, John Bruder?
Nothing to report.
And Nancy, the administrator's report?
I know.
Okay, let's move on. Executive summary. Who's gonna follow up with the quilt? Getting the quote and getting it framed and appropriate?
Amy and I will handle it.
Yeah,
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay?
and Susie's already been working on it.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we'll-
that-
Yeah, we have a lot of-
We'll proceed on that.
Yeah.
And we'll ensure, Nancy will ensure the money's in place to accommodate. That was the only punch list item I recall. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more. Eric, you were gonna follow up with Phil Ryden and possibly the chief on Overlook.
On Overlook, and I'll also follow up with Pat from the county on signage and construction options.
Okay. Get their thoughts on that. That's all I have for executive summary. Some of these meetings I'd like to call out a group. This meeting I'd like to call out the rec committee. Art in the Park was a beautiful day. It was set up well, it was well organized, the volunteers were well identified, they kept the place neat, our DPW, 2 of our guys were there and they kept the place looking tidy. It was a lovely event, and I know I spoke to a lot of people there, and I know everybody had nice things to say and they all enjoyed it. So, well done.
kudos to Councilwoman Murphy for cracking the whip on getting a lot of that work done before the park started.
I agree fully. Kudos to Jamie.
Yeah.
Now they,
Yeah, we got some feedback that the park looked a little better, so still work to be done,
they still have some things to do there.
for sure, for sure.
John Bruder, I know you were instrumental in getting that.
Yes.
Well, it was only a conduit, I think Jamie scared them.
Yeah, I think so. I understand.
That's my call out for this month.
Nice.
Let's move on to public comments on the agenda. 3 minutes per person, please. Well, let's start with those in the room. Is anybody in the room, would anybody in the room like to come up and address the council on an agenda item? Seeing none, Nancy, how about online?
No, nobody's raising their hand or in the chat.
Okay, very good. Does any council member have any further business that they would like to discuss tonight? Seeing none, a motion and second to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard Eric and Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting is on Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 7 o'clock p.m. I'm going to tell you right now, it looks like I'm away at a board meeting that night. So John, I'm going to have to ask you to handle things, please. Okay?
John, can you be the record from last time you were?
I'm
Yeah.
not confirmed yet, but it's looking like I will be away. I can't change it.
It's not about the speed, it's about the efficiency.
As always.
Can you be as efficient, John?
As always, it means a lot to the council members and myself. Those of you who come out at night and attend our meetings and be here with us, thank you very much. Okay, have a good night.
All right, thanks, Mom.
I didn't think we had finished the agenda.
I know. Me neither.
You know what,